Hello, everybody. Welcome. Come on in. Welcome to Tea and Stories. I forgot my teacup again, but it's okay. I hope you have a wonderful beverage with you and you're ready to join me for this Tea and Stories. This is a very special Tea and Stories. One, I'm relaunching my Tea and Stories. Yay! That's one. Two, and please say hi when you come in so I'll know that it's you. Also, please, I'm starting to read a novelette that I'm writing, and you all get a chance to be my editors. You get to give me some feedback and tell me what you think of this story. I hope you like it. It's a 12-chapter novelette. It's a mystery, because you know that's my favorite. I love mysteries. I'll try to tell other stories too during the week, but I wanted to start it out with the beginning of the novelette so that you'll get a chance to know more about it. But please tag somebody as you guys come in, say hello so I'll know that it's you. Thank you very much. Oops. Oh no. I don't know what happened. I'm using my phone right now so that I can read this to you. But the name of the novel is called The Children of Starlight's Last Gleaming, Awaken. The old man sat on the edge of his bed, and he thought to himself, it's about that time. And then he looked up, and there on the back of his bed, there's an old newspaper article. It was kind of tattered and a little bit yellowed. And he took it down from the wall, and he began to read it to himself. It was about a housing project. Hi, baby. And the housing project was called Starlight's Last Gleaming. The project had been started by an old man, very wealthy old man, who was also a scientist. It was just for women who had been abandoned by men. He'd allowed 10 families in. 10. They were young women with little children. They had to have at least 3 children. Now, the first 10 years of this housing project, things had been miraculous. In fact, it was almost like a little city all of its own. Each family had their own house, and there were stores within the complex where these women got to work, and they earned money to take care of their children. They even had a school there. Now, you would think that this was a marvelous place, right? You would think, seems like euphoria. Euphoria. I guess it was, until families started disappearing. Not just one member, but the whole family. Now, no one probably would have known, except people started checking on their relatives, wondering what had happened to them. First one, then 2. Then it was whole families. It was so bad that the police came in, and they came looking for these families. And when they went into each tidy little house, it was as though they had just gotten up from the table after dinner. Dishes had been done, and then they had vanished. Clothes, toys, everything was still there. They started searching the woods around Starlight's Last Gleaming to try to find the families. They had disappeared, except for 6 children. 3 girls, 3 boys. They had survived. They were found together, Wissahickon Drive, holding hands tightly, holding on to each other. The children were in shock. And when they asked them questions about where their families had gone, the children could tell them nothing. They had no memory. The children were left there in Philadelphia, but they were given to different family members, adopted. But what happened to their families was unknown. It was 15 years from then. 15. The children, who were 5 then, were now in their 20s. They were 5 and 6. And now an awakening was beginning. The old man smiled. It's time to wake up, little birds, he said. He stretched and put the newspaper article back up. I'll see you soon, he said again, and closed his eyes. Chapter 1. Gillian and Skylark. Gillian Smith was the first to realize who he was. It happened in the strangest of ways. He was sitting there on the window ledge of the library eating a sandwich, of all things. Tall and lanky, with large brown eyes, he often grabbed his sandwich on an abandoned stoop or park bench as he went about his duties for his job as a statistician for the streets department. It made him laugh that he got paid $25 an hour to count ordinary things in the city, like fire hydrants and light poles. He happened to look through the windows of the battered old library building as he swallowed a sip of pineapple soda. The library dwelled in the middle of the mostly abandoned street, but yet it was bustling with activity. That was the first thing he noticed. Dozens of school children fidgeting as a young woman read a picture book to them, while a group of teens pored over graphic novels, while still yet another middle school gang of boys chattered about the video game they were playing. He smiled, remembering those days very fondly. That's when he saw her face. A familiar face, and he said to himself, Skylark? That is when the flashes of memory began. Strong memories of a woods. Visions of 6 friends, no more than 5 or 6 years old, holding hands in a circle. The older man standing in the midst of them, eyes glazing with a strange gray-yellow light. He remembered his words. You will forget until it's time to remember. When you remember, you will find one another. And I will find you. Gillian went cold. He began to sweat and tremble. He got closer to the window, staring anxiously at Skylark. Skylark Jones was the resource assistant at the North Avenue branch. Her job was to help students and adults find out how to use the info through the library resources. Small in stature, with a massive amount of long, locked hair, she would have appeared to be the polar opposite of her friend, Gillian. Everything about her was round and approachable. Even her glasses were round and red. Her assignment as a research assistant had started out as temporary. The branch was the only one in walking distance of the university. At certain times of the year, the branch was overrun by high school, middle school, and university students clamoring for research assistants. The powers that be sent her there to free up the branch staff to handle the 6 schools that surrounded the overtaxed, under-resourced library. "Who's the weirdo staring at you, Sky?" Her co-worker Bina whispered to her as she printed out a resource for an impatient-looking preteen. "Here you go, baby. The citation is at the bottom," Sky said affectionately to the teen before looking at the window. She instantly felt concerned. "He looks ill," she said quietly back to Bina as she moved towards the door. "Where are you going? He might be dangerous." It was too late. Skylark was out of the door and face to face with her onlooker. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" "Skylark," he said, almost whispering. "Yes, that's my name." Then he took her face in his hands and stared into her eyes. "It's time to remember." The same flash of memory danced before her eyes, with one exception. She could see the faces of the other 6 friends, feeling the hands holding hers that suddenly became cold. She knew who he was. It was Gileon. Oh my Lord, Gileon. I thought you were a dream." The 2 old friends held on to each other quietly. They needed to support one another. It had been forever since they laid eyes on one another. Forever since their minds let them recall the past. "Mrs. Jones, you all right?" Mr. Lambert, the municipal guard, called out, and it broke the spell. "I'm all right, Mr. Lambert. I'll be right in," she said. "I have to get back. Look, I get off at 5. I'll meet you right here. I'm working in the area today." Then he mumbled, "You're so beautiful." Sky smiled, slipping her hand under his and putting it to her lips. "Soon," she promised, and walked swiftly to the door, forcing herself not to look back. "Who is that?" Bina asked as she returned to the desk. "A friend. An old friend." I didn't even recognize him at first. She shook off her feelings of running after him and turned to Bina. "Who's next?" The next 5 hours felt like molasses pouring from a jar. Both Gileon and Skylark really tried hard to concentrate on their jobs. It was almost impossible. "Are you okay?" Bina asked her again. "Yes, I'm fine. I'm just worried about my friend." "How long have you guys known each other?" "I've known him since I was a little girl. He's one of the few people I can remember from that time. It was just a shock to see him after all this time." The last part was a lie. It was more than just shock, because she was afraid. Afraid that Gileon meant that next something terrible was going to happen. Something horrible, like the last time in the woods. They had survived then. Would they survive now? Gileon almost got hit twice. Normally, he went about his work swiftly and attentively, but thoughts of Skylark and the others distracted him. He found an empty stoop and sat for a moment. She promised, he mumbled to himself, and she always keeps her promises. Gileon found himself grinning. Even as a child, she had been able to calm his feverish, impulsive thoughts and restore his center. 5 o'clock, he pondered. I can do the last 2 blocks and get back in time. Yo, Gil! Want to get a beer after this? A co-worker called from a slowing SUV. Peter was one of the few men who was friendly towards him in the streets department. Nah, sorry, man. I'm meeting an old friend at her job after this. Maybe next time. A girl? Don't tell me you've been holding out on me. No, nothing like that. We just reconnected. Haven't seen each other since kindergarten. Peter chuckled. You know what Robert Fulgham says? All I really needed to know I learned in kindergarten. Then he sped off. Now you're going to find out more about them and their other 4 friends. What do you think so far? Are you intrigued? I hope so. This Tea and Stories is going to be very interesting in the month of July, and I hope that you enjoy it. Now, I also put the text, well, at least part of the text, to the story on my site, so you can always look at it on my page, okay? And again, leave comments. Tell me what you think about the story. Tell me if you think it's moving too slow, too fast. I really do care about what you guys think. And as I said before, I'm sponsored by Mama Carla's Paparazzi Accessories. I have my heart earrings on. And of course my necklace. I'm going to have another flash sale coming up soon. I'll make sure that I'll post it. I hope everybody has a wonderful 4th of July weekend. I don't really celebrate the 4th of July like that, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later on. But if this is a time for you to be with family and friends, I hope you enjoy it immensely. And please, please be safe. Wear a mask. I hate wearing masks too, but if they keep us safe, then they're always good. Thank you. And I love you all very much. And I hope to see you again on Mama Carla's Tea and Stories. Bye-bye.